With the new legislative session and season, State Senator Eric Lesser of Longmeadow has introduced a few different proposals that will affect the people of Western Massachusetts. One deals with problems of blight in cities like Springfield and Holyoke. The other, looking at ways to provide portable benefits for employees who freelance or change jobs or who want to start their own business. Carolee McGrath sat down with Senator Lesser to learn more about his proposals.
So we partnered with MassInc, which is a major think tank that works very extensively in state government based out of Boston, on a really broad report looking at really the state of our cities, of our gateway cities here in Massachusetts. And what you really do know, and what the data makes clear, is that it's a tale of two cities. Boston, of course, a lot has been written about the explosive growth there, and they have challenges related to that growth. Cost of housing, for example, in Boston is skyrocketing. The average price of a home in Boston since the Great Recession has increased more than 45%. That's creating its own challenges. But something that's very important that I think policymakers and a lot of the media hasn't paid a lot of attention to is that while housing prices are going like this in Boston, in many other parts of our Commonwealth, they're going like this. So for example, over that same time period, while there was a 45% increase in Boston, in our regional cities, cities like Lowell, Lawrence, Worcester, Springfield, Fall River, New Bedford, Holyoke, Pittsfield, there's actually been a 5% overall decline in housing values. So we really need to do more to stabilize our housing markets, to get more families into good, high-quality housing, and to make sure that that housing is safe and is up to code, and of course is helping contribute to our communities.
And when you talk about that decline, of course, you're talking about, there's many vacant homes in cities like Springfield and Holyoke, and of course that, leads to the issue of blight. You mentioned staying up to code. That becomes a challenge, when you're a homeowner to meet those requirements and make the necessary renovations. How will this bill address that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of items that were identified in this report. I'll give you one example on that. So for example, we actually do have a crisis in terms of something that's frustrating for me as an elected official is all the time I hear from families who are struggling to find affordable housing. At the same time, we have all of these underutilized homes, underutilized mill spaces that could be transformed into high quality housing for people, and there's a huge disconnect there. In fact, 1 out of 9 housing units in many of our gateway cities right now are vacant. So let me give you an example of why this happens. There's a requirement on the books, which is an important one, which is that if you do renovations of a home, after you hit a certain value threshold of renovation, you have to bring the home up to code. So the idea here is if a house was built in 1900 and now you're making an update, over 100 years later, you need to update the fire suppression, you need to update the accessibility issues, etc. Except the problem with that is right now the way the law is written is it's based off percentage of the value. So if you have a house that's worth $1 million and you do $30,000 worth of improvements, to patch a roof, you don't hit the threshold because that's a very small percentage. If you do the same exact repairs, $30,000 worth of repairs on a house that's worth $100,000, which is around the value point of many of our homes in Western Mass, you trigger the requirement to update all of the code compliance in the whole house.
Which could cost about how much?
It could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could cost more than the entire value of the house.
But you don't want people moving into that house, right? Unless everything was up to code. So that is a big challenge.
That's the challenge. That's what we need to figure out. Everyone agrees that the houses need to be up to code. We need the houses to be safe. We need them to be wheelchair accessible, all of those things. But the way it's written right now is unfair to Western Mass, and it's unfair to our gateway cities. Because a house in Newton or in Brookline or in Cambridge, where property values are sky high, doesn't trigger that same requirement. A house in Springfield or in Holyoke or in Pittsfield, where the values are different, does trigger it. So we need to create a system that's equitable, whether that's through reimbursements for gateway cities that are facing older housing stocks that need to get that code up, whether it's changing the formulas to be more based around specific projects. Are you doing a roof versus a patio versus a ventilation system? But the bottom line is that's one example of dozens that this report outlines that really stack the decks, quite frankly, against communities like ours.
And how does this bill also work with the I guess, the school building authority to like revitalize a neighborhood if there's a school that's going to be renovated?
Great question. So another interesting item that the report points out, and people can look this up on the MassInc website. If you Google Neighborhood Stabilization Initiative on MassInc's website, you can pull up the full report, read all the details. But for a lot of our communities, the single biggest investment, in fact, for most communities, the single biggest investment is in the actual school building. You think about, for example, the new Brookings School or the new Putnam School, not that new anymore, but it's still fairly new. The tens of millions and tens of millions of dollars of investment that go into those buildings, those are huge local economic development projects that right now are underutilized in terms of working with the community to get those dollars out into the community, making sure that the construction is as much as possible using local folks, making sure we've got local people on those jobs, integrating and coordinating the school building itself with the outlying neighborhood. So for example, if you're going to be building a brand new beautiful school in a neighborhood, let's work with the neighborhood to also make sure the lighting surrounding the school is updated. Let's make sure the sidewalk access and the bike access and the road access is updated. Let's maybe create linkages between the school itself, the playing fields, the athletic fields, and local parks so that you can activate entire swaths of the community, not just the one specific school building. So it's really just meant as an opportunity. It's something we should think about when tens of millions of dollars are going to be invested in a community all at once. Let's be thoughtful and proactive about bringing the neighbors into that conversation, working with the stakeholders and the community groups, and making sure that as much as possible our schools are outward facing and are pushing opportunity and investment out into the neighborhoods around them and not just focused on what's happening within the four walls.
You also have some other proposals regarding workers and really an idea about portable benefits. Let's talk a little bit about that because obviously the workforce has changed considerably.
You know, this is something that I think is really underlying a lot of what's gone bananas in politics. I think people really feel intrinsically that the economy has changed in very fundamental ways, and a lot of us feel like we're on the receiving end of those changes, and I think there's a lot of frustration in our communities about that. And I think there's really two ways we can go. We can tread on nostalgia, and we can try to recreate the past, or we can look towards the future, and we can say, how do we make sure Western Mass, just like we were an amazing innovation center at the turn of the 20th century, how do we make sure at now the turn of the 21st century we continue to be those trailblazers? And the bottom line is our industrial era economy has changed. The model of an economy where you clock into an employer at 25, work your way through, clock out at 65 with a full pension, full health care benefits, unfortunately is not the way the economy is working anymore. So what we need to do is think about how we recreate a sense of stability and a sense of cohesion for people. And so one of the examples of what we're looking at is, for example, portable benefits. So why is it that healthcare, retirement, unemployment insurance are all tied to who your employer is? That's a vestige of a model that's passed. People now work for multiple different employers over the course of their career. Maybe they want to start their own business, right, and often they can't because of the way our health insurance system works or our retirement system works. So, for example, making the benefits follow the person rather than follow the company is going to spread out the economy to more people. It's going to flatten out how our benefit system works, and it will ultimately spark more creativity, more entrepreneurship. People can't start businesses. They can't go out on their own and become entrepreneurs. They can't take risks because people are afraid of losing their health insurance or their benefits if something happens to their job. That's not right. That's not fair to our population and to our families, and it's also not where the economy's heading. You know, another example is lifelong training accounts. We have an idea, and I have a bill I filed that would create a fund of money that follows the worker to use for iterative training. So the idea here is you know, the model of going to a training program at age 18, graduating and doing the same task for the next 40 years is never going to happen again. We need to train our workers and teach our workforce how to learn constantly on the job to keep up with competition we're seeing in China or wherever else. So how would this work? This would work by creating a fund capped at a certain amount of money that people could draw down. So let's say every couple of years you want to go get a new training on a new programming protocol, or you want to learn the latest in 3D printing, or you want to learn a new computer programming language. It's not for a full 4-year degree, but it would be for a 15-week nighttime training program or 10-week training program to get those skills, but they belong to you. They don't belong to your employer. You have them. They belong to you. You'll be able to take that with you to other employers. That's going to boost wages. It's going to make our workforce more competitive, and it's going to allow our workers to earn better livings.